Webflow makes it easy to develop and design. Now let's build daily interaction number 9. Hey, what's up everyone? John with WebDev for you, and welcome to the Daily Interaction series, where every weekday we build a new interaction or animation in Webflow. Today we're going to build an off-canvas menu on click. So here, if I click on this menu trigger, we see that the entire site moves to the right, and we have this menu here on the left. And if I click again, the site moves back to the left, and we no longer see the menu. So it's called an off-canvas menu because literally the entire site is moving. It's moving to the right. All right. So this is what we will be building today. To view more daily interactions and premium content, visit webdevforyou.com. Also, be sure to subscribe below to receive a notification every time there is a new daily interaction. So here I have a blank Webflow project, and we'll start with the daily interaction class naming convention. So it's the daily interaction number, so today is 9, and then the element. So every element on this site will have a d-9 in front of it, and this is for consistency purposes and so that we know we're working with daily interaction number 9. Okay, so the way this interaction is going to work, first we're going to build all the elements that we need, and then we're going to place everything for the site in a main wrapper so that we can move the entire site to the right. We're going to place everything in a main wrapper. So the first element I'll add is a div block. So I'll add an element, I'll add a div block, and I'll name this d-9 main wrapper. And I'm not going to set any width or height because I want it to inherit the height from the elements inside of it. Okay, so the next thing I'll do is add a section. So I'll add an element, I'll add a section, and I'll name this d-9 section 1. We're going to have 2 sections so we can have some scrolling to the site. So there's section 1. I'll give it a height of 100 VH, so it spans the full height of the viewport, and it will be the full width as well. Then I'll scroll down to background. I'll set the background color to black. I'll scroll up to display setting. I'll set it to flex, set it to horizontal, justify center, and align center. So I'm going to have the menu trigger here within the section, and I want it to be in the center. So I'll add another section. So I'll go into the navigator. I'll select the main wrapper. I'll add an element. I'll add a section, and I'll give it the class name d-9 section -2. Again, I'll give it a height of 100 VH, and I'll set the background color to blue so we can distinguish it between the first section. So now we have some scroll space to the site, and if I preview, we can scroll. We have section 1 and section 2. So now let's add the menu. So I don't want to place the menu in the main wrapper because we're going to have the main wrapper move to the right. So I want the menu to be in the body so it doesn't move with the main wrapper. So here I'll select the body tag or class. I'll add an element, I'll add a div block, and I'll give it the class name d-9 menu wrapper. And for this, I'll scroll down to position, and I'll set the position to fixed. And I'll place it on the left because I want it to be fixed on the left, so it'll be fixed in the browser and it won't move. And for the width, I'm going to set it to 250 pixels. You can set this to anything you'd like. I find that 250 pixels works well. Then for the background color, I'll set it to magenta, and there we go. And for the flex, for the display setting, I'll set it to flex, set it to vertical, justify center, and align center. So anything I place within this menu wrapper will be vertically centered, and that's how I want the menu items to appear. I want them to be stacked on top of each other vertically. So the next thing I'll do is add the menu items. So here I'll add an element, I'll add a link block, and the reason we're adding a link block is so that we can link it out to something. So we can link it out to a URL, page section, email, telephone number, or a file. So here I'll give it the class name d-9 link block. And then I'll place some text inside of the link block. So I'll add an element and I'll select text block. All right, I'll give it the class name d-9 menu item text. So we notice it kind of has this funky blue color and underline, and that's because the text is inside of a link block, so Webflow is giving it this hyperlink styling. So to remove that, we'll just go to the navigator, we'll select the link block, I'll go into styles, and I'll scroll down to typography, and right here for the underline, I'll select none. Okay, now I'll go back into the navigator, select the menu item text, and we'll style it. So here for typography, I'll set it to circular bold, I'll set the font weight to bold, and I'll set the color to white. I'll double click inside of the menu item text, and I'll rename it to home. And then I'll give it a font size of 34 and a line height of 40. So then here I want 5 menu items, so I'll go to the navigator and I'll hit Command C on the link block and paste until I have 5 menu items. Then I'll double click inside of each one and rename them. So home, about, services, contact, and shop. Okay, and I'll select the first link block here, go back into styles, and I'll add some top and bottom margin. So here I'll hold down Alt, and I'll add some top and bottom margin of 10 pixels. So by holding down Alt, I can add them to both the top and the bottom. Okay, so there I have the menu. So now we want to bring the main wrapper in front of the menu. So here I'll go to the navigator, I'll select the main wrapper, go into styles, and for this I'll go to position, set it to relative, and I'll change the Z index. So by setting it to a position of relative, we can now work with the Z index, so we can move the main wrapper in front of other elements or behind other elements. So the higher the Z index value, the more in front the element will be. So for this, I'm just going to add a really high Z index value so it appears in front of the menu. So I'll add something like 999. Okay, so there we have the main wrapper. So now we want to add the menu trigger so that when we click it, the main wrapper moves to the right. So here I'm going to add the menu trigger inside of the section. So I'll select section 1. I'll add an element and I'll add a div block. And notice it's in the center, and that's because we set section 1, we set the display setting of section 1 to center. So here I'll give it the class name of d-9 menu trigger. I'll give it a width and height of 50 by 50, and I'll change the background color to this magenta here. Okay, so now we have the menu trigger. I'll go into interactions. Here next to element trigger, I'll click the plus symbol and I'll select mouse click or tap. So on first click, I'll start an animation. I'll add a new timed animation and I'll name this d-9 first click. So when we first click, we want the main wrapper to move to the right. So here in the navigator, I'll select the main wrapper, go into interactions, I'll add a new timed action, I'll say move, and on the X, because we want to move it horizontally, I'll enter in 250, which is the same size as the menu. So now we can fully see the menu because the main wrapper is moving to the right. Okay, I'll add some easing of ease out expo. This is just a personal preference. You can set the easing to anything you'd like, and I'll set the duration to 0.5. So now when I preview and I click, we have the menu showing because the main wrapper is moving to the right. Okay, so now on second click, we need to move the main wrapper back to 0 so we don't see the menu. So I'll close this here, and right here on second click, I'll start an animation, and I'll duplicate the first click. So I'll select these 3 dots and select duplicate. So here I'll select D-9 first click 2, and I'll rename it to D-9 second click. So here on the main wrapper, rather than 250 on the X, I'll set it to 0 on the X. So now I'll preview, and I click, it opens, I click again, it closes. All right, so yeah, the easing is ease out expo as well, and it has a duration of 0.5. Okay, so click, the main wrapper moves to the right, click again, it moves back to 0. And that's it. That's how we create an off-canvas menu in Webflow. So one other thing we'll do, we will add a cursor to the menu trigger. So I'll scroll down, and I'll select cursor, and I'll select pointer, so that the user knows that they can click on this menu trigger. And the other thing I'll show is if I publish this site, so I'll publish to selected domains, and I'll preview. If I click, we notice we have this horizontal scroll bar, and that's because the main wrapper is moving 250 pixels to the right, and it's adding this horizontal scrolling to the site. So to remove that, we want to add some custom code into Webflow. So here I'll go to Pages here on the left, and I'll click on this gear icon to edit page settings. Here I'll select custom code, and in the head section, we're going to add some style tags. So here I'll type in style, and then I'll close the style tag. And in between the style tag, I'll type in body, open curly bracket, close curly bracket, and in between the curly brackets, I'll type in overflow -x, hidden, and semicolon. So this is what's going to disable the horizontal scrolling within the site. I'll leave a share link to this daily interaction so you can see this bit of code. So now I'll save, and I'll publish again, and I'll preview, and I click, and notice we no longer have any horizontal scrolling to the site. All right, looks good. So that is how we create an off-canvas menu. The menu is fixed, so I can scroll, and it stays in its current position. All right, and we can also move the menu trigger around. Here, if I select it, I can set a position of absolute, and I can position it in the top left, top right, bottom left, bottom right. And actually, let's set the section to relative, so that the absolute position div is relative to this section and not the entire page. Okay, so yeah, we can move it around there. Top left, and there we go. And top right, and looks good. If it was in the top right, you would want to have it fixed and not within the main wrapper. So, and then you'd want to set the Z index to something higher than 999. So I'll set it to 1000 so we can see it. And yeah, there we go. All right. But yeah, that's kind of working with the UI and everything and the user experience. You probably wouldn't want the trigger in the upper right because the menu is on the left. So it's just kind of working with the placement of the menu trigger. Here, I'll place it back in section 1 and set it back to auto, so it's in the center. All right, looks good. So that is it for daily interaction number 9, creating an off-canvas menu on click. All right, looks good. So I did cover how to create this menu trigger in daily interaction number 7, where it turns into an X when the user clicks. All right, so that is it for this video tutorial. To view more daily interactions and premium content, visit webdevforyou.com. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next daily interaction.